5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to this licensing hearing. The first item on the agenda is the election of a chair, and I understand that members would like to elect Councillor Melly to chair the meeting. Is that correct, members? Thank you very much. I'll hand over.
Thank you, Fiona. Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this licensing hearing for the White Horse Inn in Upper Poppleton. This hearing is being live webcast, and a recording of the hearing will be available to view online as well. Can we just start by going around and doing some introductions, please? I'm Councillor Melly. I'll be chairing this panel. Also on the panel are Councillors Galvin and Looker. We've got some council officers with us today. Leslie Cook, could you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Leslie Cook and I'm the licensing manager for the council.
Thank you. Sandra Brannigan.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Sandra Brannigan and I am the Council's senior solicitor who's advising the panel today. And Chair, if I just may mention that the name Lucy Waller that people may see on the screen, Lucy is my colleague in legal services who is here with me today because she is training to be a solicitor and she is simply observing these proceedings and won't be participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Fiona Young.
Fiona Young, Democratic Services, and I'm minuting the meeting, clerking the meeting.
Great, thank you. So we've got some other people in the meeting as well. The applicant, Richard Taylor, I believe you're here representing the applicant. Could you please introduce yourself and anyone else you have with you as witnesses or anyone else accompanying you, please?
Yep, good morning, councillors. My name is Taylor, Richard Taylor, solicitor from Goschalks. I'm here with, I don't know why I'm pointing that way, she's that way on my screen. She may not be that way on your screens. I'm here with Maria Ferrugia, who is director at GTFO Bars, who's the applicant. And the way we'll do this is I will give evidence, but Maria is of course here to answer any questions that you may have. Morning.
Thank you very much. And then we also have some representatives. Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, are you here? You just need to press the little button which should be on the bottom left of your screen, which says mute or unmute. Unfortunately, because of the lighting, we can't see if you're trying to speak or not because your face aren't very clear. But if there's a red line through the microphone, that means we can't hear you.
Yeah, it should be okay now, is it?
Oh, great. Yes, it is. Yes, we can hear you now. Hi, good morning.
It was on mute. Good morning. Good morning.
Would you like to be separate representatives and have 15 minutes each to make separate cases and answer questions separately, or would you like to be considered kind of one combined representative?
No, I think we'll just consider it as one combined representative.
Our concerns are the same.
Yeah, you know, our concerns are the same. So, you know.
Okay, all right, that's absolutely fine. Thank you, and welcome to the hearing. Okay, can I? So I think that's. I'm just having a look. I think that's everyone, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, great. So can I please just check with the applicant and the representatives that you've completely understood the procedure that we're going to be following? Should have been included in the papers that you were sent. Can I just check you've read that and understood that, and that you've received the additional information that was submitted by the applicant, some photos and a copy of a letter?
Yes, thank you. We've got everything. Thank you very much.
Great. And Mr. and Mrs. Cooper?
Sorry?
I just wanted to check that you've completely understood the procedure that this hearing will be following.
Yes, we have.
Excellent. Yeah. And that you've received the additional information that was submitted by the applicant. It was some photos and a copy of a letter.
Yes, we got that. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, great. Right. Okay. So item number 3 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Do any of the councillors on the panel have any interest to declare?
Oh.
No. Okay. Great. Item number 4 is exclusion of the press and the public. So I'm going to propose that we exclude the press and public during the subcommittee's deliberations and decision making at the end of the hearing on the grounds that the public interest in excluding the public outweighs the public interest in that part of the meeting taking place in public under Regulation 14 of the Licensing Act 2003. Is that okay with the rest of the panel?
Agreed.
Yeah, okay. Agenda item 5 is minutes. There were some minutes attached in the papers that were sent, but actually they've already been approved at a previous licensing hearing. So we haven't got any minutes to approve today. So we can move straight on to agenda item 6, what we're all here for, the determination of an application for a variation of premise license for the White Horse Inn and the Green Upper Poppleton. So I'm going to invite Leslie to present your report, please.
Thank you, Chair. As you say, this is the application for the variation of a premise licence for the White Horse Inn, the Green, Upper Poppleton, York. The variation seeks to extend the licensed area to cover the new bar servery to serve the garden area. Add a condition to the licence requiring that the external bar servery closes no later than 2300 hours each day. A copy of the application and plan can be found at Annex 1 of the report, and a copy of the current premise licence and plan is attached to Annex 2. An overview of the circumstances in which entertainment activities are not licensable can be found at Annex 3. The premises is described in the application as a retail premises selling a range of goods and services, which include for the consumption of alcohol. Actually, just disregard that line I've just said, because I think I copy from other meetings and I think I've taken that line from another report. Richard is agreeing with me, so please ignore that line I have just said. As part of the application, the operating schedule submitted by the applicant shows that the licensing objectives, how the licensing objectives would be met, and can be found at paragraph 9 on page 16 of the report. I can confirm that the premises is not located within the cumulative impact assessment area and that the consultation process was carried out correctly. There are no representations before you from responsible authorities. One relevant representation has been received from another party, a local resident. The list of representatives can be found at Annex 5. And their representation can be found at Annex 6 on page 59. A map showing the general area around the premises can be found at Annex 7. The committee has the following options when making your decision. Option 1, modify the conditions of the licence. Option 2, reject whole or part of the application. That's a very brief overview of the report, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we now can all ask questions of the licensing manager in case there's anything we'd like some clarity on. So we'll start with Richard Taylor. If you have any questions for Leslie.
No questions at all.
No
Thank you,
questions.
Councillor.
All right, thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, do you have any questions for the licensing manager about this application? If you could just unmute to let me know, because I can't see your faces.
I've unmuted. Our main concern is the noise which would come from the car park, because we back onto the car park. As you can see at the back here, our fence is only 4 foot from the car park, so we're fairly near. What I was concerned about was music. Is there going to be an outside music or not? Also, closing time, we're saying that the outside closing time is 11 o'clock at night. Now then, what about drinking up time? How long is that? Is there a drinking up time? Car parking.
Mr. Cooper, Mr. and Mrs. Cooper,
Hello?
Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, I'm sure that when Mr. Taylor presents the application on behalf of his client, that he'll be able to give you more information with regards to how they intend to operate that area. But with it, the bar, in the application, it clearly states that the bar has to close at 11 p.m. and there is a condition that says it must be cleaned, cleared and vacated by 11:30 p.m. They are not removing that condition that is currently on the licence.
Okay, yeah. Right, well, I think that's I think that's us really. Just our main concern is hang on a minute.
So you'll be able to, you'll have 15 minutes to kind of present your case and give your concerns.
Okay.
But for now, if you have any other questions for the licensing manager, then you're welcome to ask those questions now.
Yeah. No, we can wait till the our 15 minutes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Any members of the subcommittee have any questions for Leslie? No? Okay. Thank you very much then, Leslie. So we'll move on now to the applicant's case. So the applicant now has 15 minutes. If you could try to keep it to 15 minutes, please, to present your case. Thank you.
If I've gone 15 minutes, I will have repeated myself multiple times, and I won't go 15 minutes, but thank you. And thanks to Leslie, really, for doing a lot of my job for me. This is an application for variation, as we say, just to amend the plan of the premises to show a new, I call it a bar servery. I'm going to call it a multifunction servery in a minute, to serve that garden area, and to add a condition that the new servery closes no later than 11 o'clock. And what it is very important to concentrate on here, members of the committee, and especially what Mr. Cooper has just said, is what this application is about and what it's not about. It is very, very simple, this one. It's simply, are you happy to allow drinks to be served from a new servery to be built in an old storeroom adjacent to the beer garden? And to put that into context, please remember that drinks can already be consumed outside until 23:30, as Leslie has just said. Drinks orders can be taken outside, delivered outside by waiting staff who can take money outside. So I'm going to say, effectively, the effect of this is net zero. Nothing will change, except that people would be able, on occasions, perhaps like when we've had the weather that we've had recently, to use an outside bar servery. It's as simple as that. What it's not about is music. This application seeks no change whatsoever to music. We're not seeking permission to make any changes to the garden. We don't need to do that. It's a very, very straightforward question, which is, can drinks be sold over what is going to be a 2-meter counter? Simple as that. So against that backdrop, the applicant. Well, the applicant is Maria Ferrugia. She trades as GTFO bars, and I'm sure she's probably well known to the committee. She's held premises licenses issued by York City Council ever since the 2003 Act came into force. She's been the premises license holder for Winter Wonderland, for YO1, for the maze. Actually, that's the Rydale maze, not your maze. And she took over at the White Horse at Easter, and all she's trying to do here is look at developing the premises. And one of the revenue streams that she's looking at is whether or not she can make better use of that store in the garden that I've sent photos of, and I'll come to in a minute. Now, I said, I'm going to call this a multi-function servery, and that's a much better description than a bar servery. The intention is, if you permit it, to use it as a bar occasionally, but it may also be used as a shop counter. It may also be used as a bakery counter. A deli, they could put a pizza oven in there, but what we need from you is authority to sell alcohol over it on occasions, and it really is as simple as that. So just turning to the little bundle of photographs that I sent to you, I hope they gave you a flavour of what we've got here. The first and third photos are just of the small beer garden. You'll see some furniture in there. That's the furniture that's always been in there. There is to be no more furniture. The second photo, number 2, you'll see the covered area showing the proposed multifunction servery. That's the 2 grey double doors, which is where we're looking at putting that. I've dealt with question 3. Then you'll see the enclosed beer garden from the car park. We'll see at number 5, basically just a front on of those 2 grey double doors where we're looking to develop that into the multifunction servery. Number 6, the car park, and you can see, what is it, 3 cars parked there, and the roof that you can see is the roof of Mr. and Mrs. Cooper's house. No changes to the car park, except if you have a look at number 7, there has been removed a large covered area which was much closer to Mr. and Mrs. Cooper's house. That's been removed and is likely to become disabled parking. And then finally, and there is no criticism of Mr. and Mrs. Cooper in this, there is a letter written by Maria to Mr. and Mrs. Cooper to invite them to discuss any concerns. Now, it's entirely up to Mr. and Mrs. Cooper. I think they were on holiday when that came through. We will answer those concerns here today, but I don't seem to seek to criticise them at all. As far as the licensing objectives are concerned, well, there is an existing condition requiring that all external drinking areas be vacated and cleared by 23:30, as Leslie's just said, and we're offering an additional one that the outside bar would close no later than 2300. So just turning then to what Mr. and Mrs. Cooper have already mentioned, to their representations, but again, we put those into context. No representations, as Leslie said, from any of the responsible authorities. The police are happy, environmental health are happy. And in my respectful submission, members of the committee, it's hardly surprising. What difference is it going to make? And the answer, I think you'll come to say, it is none at all. And we understand Mr. and Mrs. Cooper's concerns. So let's just have a look at them, and I'll answer all of the questions as we go. So the representation is on page 59. And the first thing that jumped out of me was that I was very pleased to read that Mr. and Mrs. Cooper have lived there for 11 years with no problem whatsoever. Well, good. That's excellent. Well, remember, throughout that time, off sales have been permitted. The beer garden's been able to be used up to 11:30 p.m. And it's also significant, members of the committee, that over the period of the pandemic, the entire car park was given over to tables. And again, still no problems for Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, but that's scaled right back now to that enclosed area that you've just seen photographs of. So to answer the questions, how big is the bar and where is it to be? Well, it's about 6 feet wide, 2 meters wide, and it's inside the double doors shown on photos 2 and 5. 1B, extra seating. No, there's no extra seating. 1C, is there a music license? Well, this application changes nothing about music at all. The premises license does permit live music indoors and outdoors. There is a condition requiring that to finish at 10 p.m. That's always been there. We're not seeking to change that at all. 1D, smokers area. Well, smoking's permitted outside. Again, smoking, nothing to do with this application at all. The second set of questions is headed increased licensing to 11 p.m. concerns. First thing is car park. Well, again, the application changes nothing about the car park, and the car park, for the purposes of this application, isn't a relevant consideration anyway, because nothing changes. It's a car park. It's not licensed. Nothing's licensable. The next one, what time is drinking up? Change. Again, nothing changes. The condition requiring that the beer garden be vacated at 11:30 remains. And the third set of questions, where putting beer garden area? Well, again, not really to do with the application, but we're moving the beer garden's been moved closer to the pub anyway. It's further away from Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, and you've seen there's just been the increase in car parking. So I've taken that as a whistle-stop tour, and I've promised not to repeat myself, but I am going to repeat myself now, just to say it really is a matter of whether or not Maria and her partner Chris can sell alcohol on occasions over that counter, whether or not that's as part of an off sale if they use it as a deli, or to use it as an additional bar in hot weather. It really is as simple as that. And we will look, when I come to close this, as to whether or not there's any evidence that the sale of alcohol over that bar will have any effect whatsoever on the licensing objectives. And in my respectful submission, the effect of this application is net zero. So there you are, 9.5 minutes. I promised not to be 15. I also promised not to repeat myself. I've now repeated myself by saying that I won't repeat myself. So it's time for me to shut up. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, well within 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, if you have any questions, are they here? Have they just dropped out?
think they've just dropped, Chair.
Okay.
Oh, no, I know, I think they're coming back, sorry, they're there.
Great. Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, did you manage to hear all of what Richard Taylor just said in his submission?
We just missed the end bit.
If you have any questions for the applicant, you can ask those now. If you could try to keep it to 5 minutes, please. But yes, if you have any questions for the applicant, you can fire away.
Yeah, I'll let my wife start because she's our main concern is the noise. Now, when we moved in 11 years ago, there was nothing in the car park at all to do with drinking or whatever. And then, of course, the ban came on smoking in a pub. So the people who were there then put tables outside, and it started off as a smoking area, right? So then, after that, of course, COVID struck. So then it opened up slightly bigger as people going outside and drinking outside when it was COVID. Right.
During the pandemic, people used to smoke at the front. Before the pandemic, used to smoke a lot at the front. Yes, and during the pandemic, they came round to the back and were doing the smoking and the drinking because that's the government law. While that was on, it was quite, noisier. Since the pandemic's, so shall we say, finished?
Sorry to interrupt. Is this leading to a question for the applicant?
Yes, it's to do with the noise. When the pandemic finished, the tables moved back to the front of the pub and the noise decreased. Our concern is that with more people sitting at the back of the pub, the noise is going to increase again. The tables were at the front and were moved to the back.
And can I state that the tables that were at the front when we took the pub over at Easter are still at the front, and the tables that were at the back that were originally at the back when we took over are at the back. We haven't moved any tables since we took the pub on at Easter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we understand that, but while the pandemic was on, all the tables at the front, this is before you came in, were moved to the back. So there was more tables. Our concern is that if you put more tables out at the back or encourage people, I mean, we're not going to try. We don't want to
get busier.
You're going to get busier, and it's going to be noisier. At the moment, it's at the front, and it's not too bad. But our concern is if there's more people coming round to the back bar because it's easier or whatever. For whatever reason that you want to open it, that it is going to be noisier. We noticed this when the pandemic was on and people were gathering outside and came to the back. They moved the tables back to the front, since then, and it's been a lot quieter.
I think if you look, Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, at the new layout of the beer garden, it doesn't physically allow us to add any more tables and chairs now. We've kind of given ourselves a parameter of space that allows the number of tables that we have in there, and there isn't the room to add any more now. So what we have there, which was what Pete and Nikki had, and what we have at the front will not change because we simply don't have any more room to grow it, and we don't want to.
Okay.
My concern anyway is it's purely the noise side of it. You're running a business.
We understand that,
and we understand that.
We have a problem with that.
We've been in business ourselves. Our main concern is for me to get it through to you really that we are just concerned about the noise side of it. Now then the sort of ball is in your court then, as keeping noise down, maybe putting a couple of notices up, please respect our local people who we don't want to see pub closed. We don't want any of that. We've all been in business. We're all there to make a living. So that is our only concern
the other thing was that we've put a new fence up. I know it may have not directly affect you, but a little while ago, there was 2 children, they're kicking a ball against the fence. Now, my concern was if the ball came over or any other item, it could damage. Our garden's only small at the moment because we're elderly, and if an item came over or anything like that, it could damage the property or worse, hurt somebody. I'm not saying it would happen, but it did stop. It's not happened before, and it's only happened a couple of times.
Mrs. and Mr. Cooper, sorry, we're supposed to try and keep it to 5 minutes for questions.
Okay.
If this is leading to a question, could you maybe summarize it or ask it succinctly?
No,
it's the noise.
We're finished, really.
Okay.
It's mainly noise.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you'll have the opportunity in a minute to kind of present your case. If we'll just try and stick to questions.
Councillor, if I can help
now.
Yeah.
Yes, if you would like to respond to that as a question, then of course go ahead. Yeah.
There is absolutely no problem at all putting notices in the beer garden asking people to respect the neighbours. There's no problem at all with that, and that can be done. And at the end of the, we're getting off point a little here, but at the end of the day, Maria and Mr. and Mrs. Cooper are neighbours, and the pub, it's in everybody's interest that they behave like neighbours, that nobody wants to disturb anybody else at all. And so Maria will work with Mr. and Mrs. Cooper to ensure that there is no nuisance caused by the operation of the pub. I don't think anybody's saying that by installing a servery over which you can sell alcohol is going to cause any problems. But we're here, and we can commit to working with them. You saw that that Maria tried to engage, and it's entirely up to Mr. and Mrs. Cooper. They were on holiday at the time, but they chose not to. We could have done this. We could have probably done this without a hearing, but it's not a problem at all because we need to work together. And we can work together. We will be good neighbours, Maria. It's in everybody's interests. Nobody wants to be sitting here in review if there's any difficulties.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, if you have any final questions to the applicant, then you can ask them now. Otherwise, if you're wanting to make points or arguments, if you could save them for when you have your opportunity to do that. Do you have any final questions for the applicant?
No, just that we've had COVID. That's why we haven't been able to get in touch. We were on holiday and then had COVID.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. Do any members of the subcommittee have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah,
yes, Councillor Galvin.
I just have a quick one. Looking at the map on page 63, I think the representative house is number 15, which is at the top corner away from the pub buildings. Am I right with that, Mr. Taylor?
I think it's number 8, Councillor, the one right at the end of the car park.
I think if we could try not to disclose any kind of confidential or private information.
What I was really trying to get at, what's the distance from the proposed serving area from the representatives? Roughly, I don't want
Maria, 40, 50 yards, maybe? I don't know.
About that. And I would say between the main bar inside and the outside bar, you're looking at no more than probably 8 meters tops, I would say. So there's not much of a difference.
So you're about 40 yards from the representatives. I got the wrong house that they lived in, but anyway, so be it. So it's 40 yards roughly. Thank you. That's all.
Very roughly. If you have a look at the photo number 6, that sort of shows the length of the car park, and that's taken with your back to the newly formed and enclosed beer garden. So there you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 cars parked there. There's space for plenty more, but I would say, yeah, it's It's probably, well, it's more than 2 cricket pitches, which is 44. So I suspect it might be. I do things in cricket. I suspect, I don't know, Mr. Cooper, what do you reckon? 50, 60?
From
our border.
From our border.
Yeah.
We're literally 4 foot from the car park.
No. The distance from your fence to the.
From the distance from our edge of the garden.
Our garden, where the lamppost is,
probably
the public lamppost is, I would have said downwards, is what, 40?
No, in 40 yards.
4? I don't know.
Be about 30 yards, I would think, at the most.
That's from that the public lamppost from the alley.
We're number 15, if that's what you're looking at on a map. We're number 15.
At the bottom of our garden is where the lamppost, you can see it, I think, on the pictures.
The alleyway.
That is where there's an alleyway that goes down the side. And that's the bottom of our garden. And it goes down.
Does it make sense on there?
Yeah.
Yep.
My apologies to everybody. I'd got the wrong house.
Well, I thought you had, but I wasn't going to argue.
No, you were spot on, councillor.
Okay. Any other questions from the subcommittee to the applicant? Councillor Gavin or Councillor Looker? No. I have a couple. So you mentioned smoking. So is there currently a kind of designated smoking area that maybe will be moved? So I'm looking at the pictures. It shows in was it photos 1 and 3? No, 2 and 5 kind of shows the area, the new serving area that you've applied for, and it shows it in an uncovered area. So I was wondering whether that is generally used as a smoking area, or whether there isn't really a designated smoking area and it's just kind of spread out, or will a smoking area need to be moved?
Maria?
The smoking area, there isn't really a designated area, it's just outside. This is what was done before, and we haven't looked to change anything at this stage.
Okay, thank you. And my other question, you mentioned that currently in the outdoor drinking area, orders can be taken and payments can be taken and drinks can be brought. That the outdoor area isn't currently in the premise licensable area. So I was wondering if you could clarify what you meant by that.
Well, Section 190 Licensing Act 2003 requires that the place where a contract for the sale of alcohol is made is where that drink is appropriated to the contract. If an order is taken outside and then processed effectively behind the bar and taken outside, and the money given outside, then the alcohol is appropriated from within the licensed area, and therefore that can be done. Now, this was clarified by the Home Office in its Section 182 guidance, which Sandra will be well aware of, at paragraphs 8.34 off the top of my head. Sorry, 8.35 to 8.37. What the Home Office says is that the sale of alcohol is to be treated as a place where alcohol is appropriated to the contract. In scenarios where drinks orders are taken by a member of staff in the garden or outdoor space, and the member of staff then collects the drinks from the licensed premises and returns to deliver them to the customer, this would be treated as an off-sale, and any conditions that relate to off-sales apply. So it doesn't need to be within the licensed area, paragraph 8.35. But Councillor, that was subject to huge debate for the 10 years leading up to the April 2018 guidance, because different authorities treated it different ways. But hence the clarification from the Home Office.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure Leslie will support that. It's.
Any other questions from the subcommittee for the applicant?
Yeah. So what it's going to now be within the red line with the bar that changes. I mean, it's purely for my own, I'm not trying to make an issue, but if the license is granted for this external bar, then the red line will be extended to pick that area of the bar up rather than the sitting area.
The red line picks up the bar, yes, but
Thank
not
you.
the seating area.
That's fine. So
yeah,
I understand.
Yeah. It's there is the plan. I don't know if it's come through terribly well on your thing, but the red line is very, very clearly
on the small one, which you need a magnifying glass.
I'm glad it's not just me.
I know.
It is available online as well. If you're struggling to see it on the printed papers, you can go on the council's website and find it, and maybe zoom in on a computer screen.
That's fair.
Okay, so is that all the questions from the subcommittee for the applicant?
Yeah.
Seeing nods. Okay, great, thank you. So Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, you now have up to 15 minutes to present your case. So we're only able to consider matters relating to the variation that is being applied for in this hearing, and the decision we make today. We're not able to kind of review the existing license in any way or make any changes to the existing license. We can only consider the variation being applied for and the, hear evidence about the potential impacts of that. So if possible, if you could try to keep to that in your 15 minutes, that'd be appreciated. But otherwise, you've got 15 minutes to present your case as you like. Thank you.
I don't think we'll need 15 minutes anyway. But as we've reiterated before, as this outside bar would probably get busier, noise is a problem. Also, car parking to a certain extent, you get people coming and slamming car doors at 11 o'clock at night or 11:30 when they're going home and things like that. It all makes a difference because we're very close. Behind us is the car park. So, the drinking up time was a concern for me, which has been alleviated. Music as well, we're quite happy with what you said about the music side of things. Closing time, quite happy with that really. It's just back to square one. It's we don't want it getting any noisier than it already is. I don't know if my wife's got any more to say. Have you?
No, it's mainly the noise and the fact that if there's going to be a lot of children around the back, are they going to play down at the bottom of the car park? We know what it's like in car parks. At the moment, we've never had any problems. I have to admit to that. But it's the noise. It was the noise during the pandemic that alerted us because we've never had it. Nikki and her husband used to, the previous owners, I'm assuming that the new owners will be the new tenants will be the same, but we are all elderly in this cul-de-sac, and we moved from one end of the village to be quite quiet,
a bungalow
to a bungalow that's we just didn't want the noise. We've not had the noise.
Right, so that's about it really. Yeah, that's our conclusion anyway. But I mean, we don't want to see anybody going out of business. We just want it that try to keep the noise down. That's all. Okay, that's us finished. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And yet another representation role within 15 minutes. That's great. Thank you for keeping it succinct. So now, does the applicant have any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Cooper?
No, thank you.
No, and any members of the subcommittee, any questions? No, okay. So in that case, we're on to the summing up, which goes in the reverse order. So Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, if you have anything else that you would like to say in summation, then you have up to 5 minutes. You don't have to use it though.
No, we're fine. No, we're fine
okay.
As well.
And same for the applicant, you have 5 minutes if you would like.
I get paid by the hour, so yeah, I would.
Okay.
I'll be very.
Up to
I will be very.
5 minutes.
I will be very, very.
5 minutes. Okay.
Sorry, I was reading. It's in my interests to extend things. I will be very, very quick. I will be very, very quick. As I said at the beginning, members of the committee, it's very, very important that we stick to the subject matter and the effect of the proposals here. It's an application for variation to allow alcohol sales over a 6-foot bar. We've talked about the guidance already. The guidance follows, doesn't it, the case law, which and the guidance, paragraph 9.43, the authority's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what it is intended to achieve. Well, what we're intending to achieve here is the ability to sell alcohol over a small multifunction servery built in an old storeroom. So what is the evidence both for and against that in relation to the licensing objectives? Well, the evidence in favour is quite powerful. Number one, no objections from any of the responsible authorities, the experts in matters of noise and nuisance, the environmental health officer, experts in matters of crime and disorder, antisocial behaviour, the police, they don't object. And the reason, of course, is that nothing effectively changes. Number two, there are no objections from any of the other neighbours. Again, perhaps understood more what we were trying to do. We don't know, but again, it's evidence. Number three, we have a very, very experienced operator who tried to engage, who tried to do the right thing, who has said, I have no problem putting notices up, that we want to be here, we want to act as neighbours, and we'll continue to act in a neighbourly fashion. And this isn't the place, but we will extend the invitation to come in, have a chat at any time about anything that Mr. and Mrs. Cooper have concerns about. That number four, that experienced operator, an unblemished record. And number five, probably perhaps the most powerful evidence in this case, is the evidence that we've just heard from Mrs. Cooper. We've been here a long time. We've never had a problem. Well, let's just think about that. In all of that time that Mr. and Mrs. Cooper have been there, there has been the ability to sell alcohol outside. People have been outside. As I say, what is the net effect of the grant of this application? And the answer, in my respectful submission, is absolutely nothing. Against, well, what is the evidence against? We've heard no evidence at all. What we've heard are concerns, and we sympathise with Mr. and Mrs. Cooper and their concerns. But as you know from the case law, as we know from the Home Office guidance, concerns aren't evidence, and you can't start refusing applications on the basis of what might happen. What we need is something to go on, and in my respectful submission, there isn't anything at all. So in all of the circumstances, members of the committee, I'd invite you to grant the application in the terms sought, perhaps to impose a condition, an additional condition, that notices be displayed in the beer garden asking people to respect the rights of the residents. Absolutely no problem with that at all. And allow Mr. and Mrs. Cooper to continue to live in perfect harmony with the pub at the back. And again, if there's any problems at all, we can talk about it, we can discuss it. What Miss Farrugia doesn't want is to be back in front of you for review. And I'm very, very confident she won't be. So there you go, less than 5 minutes. And that's everything from me. Thank you very much indeed, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. So in that case, before we kind of close this public hearing and go away for deliberations, can I just check whether any members of the subcommittee have any final points of clarification you feel you need, or any other bits of information? No, nothing at all. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, in that case, I'll thank everybody very much for your time this morning. We'll go into a private session now for deliberations, and we'll try to make a decision today. We won't come back into this public hearing because we don't want you to be sitting around in front of a computer screen, just sitting and waiting. So we won't come back. We'll close this hearing, and then you'll be informed as soon as possible of the decision. Yes. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.